Welcome back to Two Brothers Comic Club, Nick, and today we're going to talk Spider-Man 2099. Was it actually any good? You have all seen the new Miles Morales trailer at this point, I'm hoping, and you will have seen Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 29, shooting through, hitting Miles. You see all the really cool stuff in the costume and the fangs, or not the fangs, the claws, and just all this awesome stuff. And so I decided, I've never actually read Spider-Man 2099, and I don't know many people who have, so I jumped on, and I don't mean the newer stuff. I'm talking classic, I think it was like 46 issues I read of the original Spider-Man 2099 run by Peter David before they fired the 2099 editor at Marvel, and then Peter David in solidarity kind of quit everything. You see a little bit of him in Spider-Man 365, I believe is what it was. It's basically a 5-page preview, which is whatever. I enjoyed it for the most part. The artwork was okay. It was definitely not good old-fashioned 90s artwork that you would expect. The writing was pretty good. It could have been a little bit wordy at times, I won't lie, but did a really good job from right out of the gate, capturing my attention and then really helping me understand who Miguel O'Hara was immediately and how he became 2099, like literally almost instantaneously. Spider-Man 29, he is Miguel O'Hara, who was a geneticist at Alchemax, who thought that he was addicted to drugs. Come to find out, his boss Tyler Stone actually drugged the man, and so he basically did this experiment to try to cure himself of this drug addiction. And to nobody's shock, and if you have read this, you will know they say shock or shocking or what the shock, or basically shock means any curse word we would use in today's day and time. They use it about 1,000 times, which candidly was super annoying. But shockingly enough, he became half Spider-Man basically. They'd infused his DNA with like 50% spider. He freaked out, had some anger issues, hulked up a little bit, and then started growing, you know, just like every other spider origin story. Started growing things and was having issues like not understanding what was happening. And his was really cool because, you know, he had these awesome, I don't even know what you like, daggers coming out of his arms, and you know, his daggers coming out of his little fingers. I know there's a better word for it, but really interesting character design like we haven't seen before. His suit was really interesting to me because it actually comes from Day of the Dead, and all of this takes place in, again, the year 2099 in Nuevo New York, which has been replaced by New York, and you have downtown, which is basically New York kind of now, but instead of New York growing out, it just grew up. So all the rich folks, and very much so anti-corporate anything in Spider-Man 2099. The corporate's world was running everything. You had Alchemax, and then you had like this Stark fusion of a company running some other stuff, and all those guys were basically kind of running the world, or the city, you know, and then everybody down below. And then you get into some really weird stuff, right? You get into some of the villains. And honestly, I was kind of hoping they didn't take modern Spider-Man villains or current villains and then just like repurpose them with retitle them. And I get it, it's a Spider-Man book. They basically just gave the Spider-Man title to somebody in the future. So why not give the Vulture to somebody in the future? Why not give the Green Goblin to somebody in the future? Why not give Mary Jane a completely different avenue in the future? So it was really weird, I won't lie, because like Mary Jane was a group of 3 like half-naked, I think they were like young girls, which was really weird. Vulture was a cannibal, which was pretty sick. But yeah, it was very, very different than anything I expected, but all in all, it was pretty good. But the one thing that was the funniest to me about this whole Spider-Man 2099 is obviously this was written like in 92 to 96, 97. Now we're in 2021, almost 2022. We're not, you know, too far away from that year period versus 2099, right? I mean, we're only 30 years out, 70 years from 2099, give or take. But to see how Peter David thought that the future would be was hilarious. I mean, you have this weird hologram woman who tries to kill him at one point, which is very interesting. And, you know, it was just, you know, everything was like very, very, you know, basic, what you would think of the future. And it was just so interesting to read because a lot of those things we have now, there are hologram type things, and we have things like Siri and Alexa that are like smart computers and all these other crazy things that at that time were just kind of like, maybe we'll get there by 2099. So that was a very interesting thing. And then The storyline as a whole was okay. I read like some of the other Spider-Man stuff I've read where, you know, Spider-Man's going through some type of personal emotional problem. A villain jumps in, he beats the villain, move on to the next thing. Like, it was just very cyclical, so you kind of knew like, okay, what's gonna happen. But the overarching storyline where he's becoming Spider-Man, figuring out who he is and how he can go from being the big corporate guy in the book to an actual helpful, useful human being, to you know, his past and his history with his dad and his mom being crazy but not that crazy, and his dad not really being his dad, but his, spoiler alert, his boss who drugged him actually being his real father. And it's just very interesting. And then his brother becoming Hobgoblin, so you have the similarities between, like, you know, Harry being his best friends, not Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, but you know, you have his similarities with like Peter Parker's best friend becoming the Goblin and stuff like that. And just, it was very, very intriguing kind of how that was all shaken up. My favorite character was Vulture. My biggest letdown was Venom. I thought Venom was very, very silly. I mean, it just was, man. But Vulture was hilarious. But overall, it was okay. Would I recommend you guys go sit down and read all 40-something issues? No, I don't think I would. I would recommend you read the first couple. It was okay, get a good understanding. And then I would go and do what I did is, after I finished, I started reading some of the more modern stuff, which led me into a huge Maestro kick, which then led me into a huge Old Man Logan kick. So if you guys want to see an additional conversation about that, but I started reading Spider-Man 2099 that came out like 14 or 15. There was just a couple of mini-series there. I think it was like 12, something like that, issues. It's been about a week since I finished it all at this point, but really, really interesting. The covers were fantastic. I liked that storyline better. They did drop him kind of into, you know, modern times. So that was very cool. And then it ties into all the, like, the Spider-Verse storyline, which I'm very intrigued in, and I'm going to go back and read at some point here soon. But then when he started getting involved with Maestro, and that was just super, super cool to me. So I started going back, reading Maestro, and that'll be a video for another day. But guys, Spider-Man 2099, was it actually worth it? Yeah, I mean, it was okay, not great. If you have some time, read them. If not, I recommend just reading the first few issues, get a good understanding of who he is, and he'll probably be much better when it comes time for the movies. Guys, you're the best part of Two Comics. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, collect your way.